I felt it before I even saw him. That push of air when someone steps just close enough to change the pulse of a room. The bar wasn't full, but the sound was layered. Low music, muffled conversation, the occasional sharp flick of laughter. My drink sat half-finished in front of me. A tiny bead of condensation slid down the glass, catching the light before it hit my fingertip. And then he leaned in. Not a stranger, worse, someone I'd known long enough to know better, someone who shouldn't have been here tonight. "You're early?" he murmured, his voice low, enough breath in it to graze the edge of my ear. I didn't turn right away. I wanted to let the moment stretch, let the heat of his proximity settle before I acknowledged it. My eyes stayed on the amber in my glass, on the way it shifted when I swirled it once. "I could say the same," I answered, and only then did I look up. He was already locked in, eyes steady, no hint of hesitation. Everything about his stance said I meant to be here, right behind me, and far too close. Before I go further, go ahead, tap like, hit subscribe, and stay right here with me. You'll want to see exactly where this goes. Trust me. I should have stood, should have put another chair between us. But I didn't. Instead, I let my knees angle inward, my shoulder brushing his as he took the seat beside me that no one said was free. "You're quiet tonight," he said, and the corner of his mouth edged into a smile like he knew exactly why. "Because you're here. Because you shouldn't be." Across the room, my husband was deep in conversation with a woman I didn't recognize. Her hair was dark and pinned up, the soft curve of her neck catching each pivot of her head as she laughed. Not polite laughter, the kind that started low and lifted toward whoever made it happen. I didn't interrupt them, not with my voice. My silence was enough to keep the tension wrapped exactly where it belonged. He reached for my glass without asking, fingers brushing mine as he took it. The touch was nothing, casual, almost, but it stayed in the air between us. When he drank, his eyes didn't leave mine. Slow sip, measured swallow, the kind of deliberate control you either have or crave. "You still drinking the same?" he asked as he set it down, sliding it back toward me so close our fingertips aligned again. "Some things don't change," I said. My pulse was lying. The music slowed, a deep haze of bass thrumming through the walls. A sound you didn't just hear, you felt it low in your chest. I leaned back against the cushion, tilting toward him. "You didn't tell me you'd be here tonight. Would you have come?" His voice dropped, enough that it was mine alone. Across the room, she'd moved closer to my husband, too close. Her palm rested on the curve where his shoulder met his chest, not gripping, not asking, just holding the space between them on her terms. He didn't move away. My breath slipped in without permission, a little sharper than the one before it. "Do you want to leave?" he asked, watching me but flicking his gaze briefly toward the scene across the room. "No," I said, too fast, too certain. Then slower, "Not yet." He took that answer like a green light. His knee brushed mine, and instead of easing back, he turned fully toward me until the edge of his thigh pressed into my leg. Every sense sharpened, the scrape of fabric, the tiny shift in weight when he leaned forward. "Tell me," he said, eyes tracking mine, "what you're thinking right now." That was dangerous, too direct. "That you're closer than you should be," I told him. He smiled. And yet, the waitress passed behind us, and in that second he let his hand settle lightly on my bare knee. Not a warning, not quite a claim. Just there, present. I stayed still, no flinch, no pullback. If anything, my body betrayed me by leaning an inch toward him. By holding. Do you feel it? That edge where you could step back or tip forward. Tell me in the comments. You know exactly which way you'd go. The noise of the bar faded behind my focus. My husband's voice was a soft hum in my peripheral awareness, his laugh lower now, carrying differently. He was relaxed. He was leaning in toward her. I let my hand fall to my lap, my knuckles grazing his where it rested on me. The contact was both nothing and everything. In that tiny overlap of skin, the moment solidified. "We can leave," he said again, but this time it wasn't a question. Instead of answering, I shifted my leg so that his hand slid just slightly higher. His breath matched the change. I didn't need to turn to see him watching my face, to feel the pause he took before letting his grip settle again. There's a certain power in choosing stillness, in letting someone else work through their own restraint while you hold exactly steady. I could feel his pulse in his fingertips. The music changed again. Softer now, but with that steady, confident pulse beneath it. The air in the room settled heavier around us. I finally looked toward my husband. He was already watching me. Not my face, my leg. The line of his gaze said he'd seen everything. Our eyes met across the room, and neither of us looked away. He blinked first, slow, deliberate, then turned back to the woman beside him, his hand brushing the small of her back in a move so practiced it didn't even look like one. She shifted closer, smiling into her drink. The man beside me followed my line of sight, then looked back at me, his hand squeezed, minimal but certain. "Let him see," he murmured. I stood up, not fast, but enough to make the motion intentional, noticeable. His hand fell away. I didn't wait to see if he followed. I stepped toward the hallway that led to the private booths in the back. The lighting dimmed here, the hum of conversation replaced with pockets of quieter air between seats. I didn't sit. I stopped in the narrow section between two private tables, leaned against the wall, and waited. He found me in seconds. "This is what you wanted?" he asked, stepping close. There wasn't enough space for the question to feel theoretical. "I wanted to see what you'd do," I said. He bracketed me in with one arm against the wall, his breath pulling in slow through his nose. The way he looked at me was louder than if he'd said my name out loud. I should pause, right here, and ask you, in this exact moment, would you push past him, or let him close that last inch? I didn't answer with words. I reached for his jacket, letting my fingertips trace the edge of the seam until I caught it near his shoulder. A small pull, not enough to drag him in, but enough to make sure he moved at my pace. His forehead aligned with mine first, the shared warmth making the space seem smaller. I kept both hands at his sides, feeling the steady rhythm of each breath, holding him there long enough for my pulse to set its own tempo. Behind him, a shadow moved. My husband. He stopped just short of the booth. The woman was with him, her gaze darting between us before settling on me. My husband didn't speak, but the way his jaw set told me exactly what he thought he was seeing. I didn't step back. I didn't push forward. I just let the scene stay balanced, right there on the point of a knife. "You're going to have to choose," the man in front of me murmured. "I already did," I said, but only in my head. We stood like that for another beat, each holding something back, each waiting for the other to claim it first. Then I moved, not away, through. I brushed past him, trailing my hand along his arm until I reached the open space where my husband stood. The woman shifted aside to let me through, but her eyes stayed on our faces, hungry. I stopped in front of him and let my fingers graze his open wrist, the contact casual on the surface but loaded underneath. "Ready to go?" I asked, my voice low and even. His eyes scanned mine, searching for something he wasn't going to find tonight. Still, he nodded. We passed the other man without looking at him, though I could feel his gaze clinging like static as we moved toward the exit. Outside, the air was cooler, calmer. But inside me, the heat didn't drop. I know what you're wondering. What happened next, when the door shut and the night kept going? I could tell you. But maybe I want to see if you'll ask me for it. Would you have left with me? Or stayed with him? Tell me in the comments. And if you don't want to miss the rest, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Trust me, the next part is even worse, and better.